Hi, my name is Lauren Hayden, and I am here to explain the underlying features of the Access database for the CRM Profiles webpage. The three tables that we will be looking at in the CRM_default.mdb file, which will be located in the app directory in the root of the app data folder for the CRM Profiles page. We will be looking at the template fields table, the template forms table, and the template sections table. And we're going to talk about how they correlate to the CRM Profiles page. The very first thing that we're going to look at is the template forms table. We'll go ahead and look at the design. As you can see here, we have the ID, form name, key map field, key map sources, and the sort order. The ID is the primary key, just an auto-generated number that gives the table the unique number. The form name is the actual form name. In our situation, if you look at the data here, it's going to be profiles because that's what we have available. The key map field is the field that that page uses as the unique identifier, and key map sources is a semicolon delimited unique ID that identifies other fields that are unique and required. And sort order is essentially just an order in which the records will be displayed. The next area or table that we'll be talking about is the template sections. The template sections have a relationship to the forms, and as you can see here, we have individual, language, education, situation, agriculture, ownership, personality, health, and media. And these are basically the definitions of each of the sections that will be displayed on that particular page. Now, as you can see here, this has form ID 1. And if we go back to the template forms, form 1, this is for the profiles. So essentially what that is all of the sections for the profiles page. The fields that we have are the HTML ID, the section title, is collapsible, is fixed, and the sort order. The HTML ID is used for the CRM Profiles page HTML ID. It generates that. It uses that the section ID. The section title is what is displayed in the header for that section. Is collapsible is a flag that identifies whether or not that section is collapsible or expandable. Is fixed is whether or not that particular section is fixed and cannot be collapsed or expanded. And then simply the sort order is the order in which those sections will be displayed. The next table will be the template fields table, and that essentially hosts all of the information about the fields that are available for that particular page. Now, as you can notice here, we have field ID, section ID, dependent field IDs, dependent field ID, there's two, the HTML ID, the field name, the field label, field input, field example, field values, field SQL, field uses database, field database, field table, field SQL has parameters, SQL parameter count, SQL parameter name, field parameter default value, can hide, add to list, field has range, field min max is visible. We'll go ahead and explain what each of these are. Let's go ahead and look at the design of the table. Again, the field ID is the unique identifier that identifies that field. The section has the actual section name, or ID rather, and that allows you to create a relationship to an existing section. The dependent field IDs identifies the IDs that are linked back to a parent field that have a relationship, meaning that if you select that parent field, it will actually have an effect on that field. The dependent field is essentially the same thing. The only difference between the two is one is for a single relationship, the other one is for a multiple relationship and is semicolon delimited. The HTML ID is the ID that is used in the web page as an identifier. The field name is what is used as the textual identifier. The field label is the text that is displayed on the actual CRM Profiles page. The input is what type of control is used in the input section. The field example is the actual example that's displayed. The field values is a semicolon delimited field that has information for a drop-down or potentially a checkbox list. Field SQL is used when the data that is going to populate the input is from an external database, and the field uses flag tells the page that you are going to use the database. The field database is the base you're going to use. The field table is the actual table that it relates to. And the field table fields are the fields that you'll use for that input. The SQL has parameters is the flag of whether or not that SQL statement has parameters in it. And then the field parameter count tells how many are in that. The field parameter name is a semicolon delimited input that allows you to identify what the actual names are. And the field parameter default value is also semicolon delimited field that allows you to put in the default values for each of the parameters that you have. Next is the can hide. That allows you to show or hide a field, and that just is a flag that will tell you whether or not you can do that for that field. Typically a required field will be false because you can't hide or show that one. The can add to list is a flag that tells the page whether or not you are able to add items to that list. It could be a drop-down or a checkbox list. Field has range. In that field, essentially, it tells the page whether or not you can have a min and max range for the values in a drop-down. So it could be a numeric value like 1980 to 2010, and it would display all the values in that drop-down for that range. And as you can see here, this is where the range is actually defined in the min range and the max range. And the field required is a flag that explains to the page whether or not that field is required. If that's checked, it will tell the page you have to input data for that particular field, or you can't move on or save the record. It's a required field. Is visible is basically the flag that tells the page whether or not that particular field is visible or not. And the can hide field has to be true in order for that to work. The sort order is essentially how these fields will be ordered as you input records. Ask is for the SMS page. All the other tables that you see in this database are either tables that are used for lookups and should not be modified because there are pages that use these. That's one thing. The last table that we'll look at is the CRM Profiles page, or table rather. And as you notice here, this is actually all of the data for the CRM Profiles page. And as you can notice here, we'll look at the design. There is a field that correlates to the actual defined fields in the template fields table. We'll go back and open up the template fields table. And you'll notice here we have a phone ID. That is the actual unique identifier, so that won't be displayed here. What you'll notice here is you have a first name and a first name. And you can see here they match. And if we were to define another form, we would essentially do the same thing. For example, if I wanted to create an address table with a bunch of fields, we would have to enter address here in the forms template, or the template forms table, and the ID, key map sources, and sort order, and then define some sections for that address field. It could be like emergency contact, home, address, etc., something like that. And then we would have to define the fields for that particular form that we've created. And this will conclude the explanation for the database aspect of the CRM Profiles webpage. Thank you.